Class of '09, a new limited series on Hulu, released its first couple episodes on May 10th. The show follows a class of FBI agents over 3 different timelines and features Kate Mara, Brian Tyree Henry, Sepideh Moafi, and Brian J. Smith. On this podcast, we like to review the most recent installments of a different series every show. Welcome to today's episode. To jump into this one, I thought that we'd play a game. The way it works is this. There's a bunch of FBI shows out there, and I've chosen 4. And I've gotten the titles to 4 different episodes from each one, but one of them is fake. So, well, you'll learn it as you go along. The first show that I chose was Quantico. You know, the one with Priyanka Chopra Jonas? Yes. And so there's 4 titles. Here are 4 titles from season 1, and one of them isn't true. They were all one-word titles, by the way. Okay. Soon, Right, Go, and Blue. Which one doesn't fit?
Soon, Right, Go, and Blue.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, well, Go. I would say Blue.
Blue is correct. Blue is not a title from a first season episode. Whatever logic you used on that one, stick with it. The Blacklist is the next one. All of these are titles from season 10, except for The Troll Farmer, The Postman, The Man in the Hat, or The Train Conductor.
This seems like it's going to be harder. I think The Man in the Hat was one. And then what did you say the first 2 words? The
Troll Farmer, The Postman, The Man in the Hat, and The Train Conductor.
The Troll Farmer?
The Troll Farmer had a part 1 and a part 2. So no, that was you're one for 2 right now. The actual answer was The Train Conductor. The next show is Blind Spot. All of these are titles from season 5, except for Sepideh, Crime Does Pay, Naughty Monkey Kicks at Tree, The Big Blast from the Past episode.
The Big Blast from the Past episode?
Is 100% a true episode. The real one was Crime Does Pay. That's got to be an episode somewhere.
I feel like it, yeah. Like
Criminal Minds, last one. This one's going to be the toughest one. Also the funniest one. All titles from actual episodes except for Rule 34, Oedipus Rex, but W-R-E-C-K-S.
Yeah.
Alpha Male, The Red Light District.
The Red Light District.
You're right. How'd you know that one?
Because
you thought Rule 34 was a real episode?
Well, you said the funniest one, and I was thinking about which one was not funny, and the Red Light District was the only one I could come up with.
It was within the realm of... okay, all right. Well, the name of these 2 episodes that we're talking about today is Part of Something and The Fitness Test. The Fitness Test reminds me a lot of that meme that you used to send me when you were a kid.
Wait, what?
The really annoying one, the fitness gram thing.
Oh, the pacer test?
Yes, because that became
fitness
like...
gram pacer test,
yeah. So the meme is just that you keep on sending it to someone, right? No matter what they say. Yeah, that was annoying. All right, so jump us into this episode. It's a non-linear format. There's time jumps and interweaving storylines. It's like the 10th show that we've done this month like that. Silo, Fatal Attraction, Stay Next, Tiny Beautiful Things. They all had different timelines that they were following.
I actually kind of wanted to start off with one of my cons for this show, which is, at least for the first episode, it's so hard to follow because by the 20-minute mark, you're already introduced to 4 different storylines.
4?
Yeah, because you have the 2034 storyline, that's the future.
That's the future.
Then you're cut to the 2009 storyline, which I found the most interesting. Then you had 2023 present day.
Yes.
And then even for a very, very short segment in the 2009 segment, they have a flashback to an unspecified time where you just see our main character, Ashley Poet, working in a mental ward.
Like she's even younger. So it's like 2008, 2007. I think the way they delegated it was like pre-2009 storyline, 2023 storyline, and 2034 storyline.
Yeah, but like you said, they're all kind of interconnected, but it's so hard to follow. And I actually got visible. Like, I was really annoyed by the 20-minute mark when they introduced the 2023 storyline because that was the 4th storyline they introduced. And I was like,
how did they introduce it?
Can you stick to a regular thing? Do you mean, like, what exactly
What was
happens?
the title card?
Like they show you. It's almost reminded me a little bit of Dope Sick because it has text in white and it's also showing you the year where it says 2023 present day.
I asked because in Saint X, remember, they didn't ever tell you. It was all just because of like the color filter, or you could tell because they were on an island 1 second and then they were in New York. But like, so they at least give you some way of keeping track, right?
Yeah, I mean at the beginning of the episodes.
Yeah.
But
so if the present storyline was your least favorite, did you say your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite storyline,
right?
It was 2009, and for a show called Class of 2009, I don't know why they just didn't stick with that.
When I first read it was 2009 and 2034, I thought the best way they could do that is if they leaned into the differences of tech in 2009 versus like where it could go in 2000, like go crazy for 2034.
No, that is
but also
funny.
in the past, like this would not have been made on Apple. You know why? No Siri, no iPads, no Apple Watch, no AirPods. They were still trying to make the shuffle a thing. Also, Instagram didn't exist, Pinterest, Snapchat, vaping, mainstream online dating. In 2009, most phones still had physical keyboards. There weren't smart doorbells or Airbnb. Like all of that stuff came about in the last decade or so. And like I would really have like I don't know how I would have put it, but like that's what I would have concentrated on.
Well, the thing that I find funny is that, yeah, the 2034 storyline is almost about how technologically advanced we've already become by that point, because Teo even says during a judiciary hearing how, like, he's implemented AI into the FBI.
Yeah.
And we see people, they apparently have, like, they can now, they have, like, technology in their eyeballs.
It's like the theory of everything, that Black Mirror episode or whatever that's called. You know, the one with the contact lenses.
Yeah, no,
right?
yeah.
That's what I read about. Also, Extrapolations, the Apple show, took place in 2037. The world looks super bleak. There were dying crops and climate change, but they did have gene therapy kits and pet translators and easy 3D printed food. Did they go in any of those directions, or was it all just the contact stuff?
Not really. It was the contact stuff. It was the fact that, like, the FBI is using a lot of technologically advanced stuff as of now, trying to find a through line for 2009, 2023, and 2034 with this show. I find really hard to do because I really couldn't see how they all connected.
There's not a connection in a case. It's all just the characters and where they are at in their careers.
Yeah, because,
right?
well, 2000, yes, almost entirely, because the 2009 storyline is about, we get introduced to all the characters: Ashley, Poet, Hour, that's her roommate; Teo, that's Brian Tyree Hill; Lennox, who I think Ashley Poet dates for a certain amount of time; and then Simmons, also in episode 2. These are all people that are being ready to be trained for the FBI.
Was there anybody that you didn't recognize? Because obviously you got Kate Mara from A Teacher, you have
Well, House
Sepideh.
of Cards as well.
Yeah, but I'm doing the ones that we did for the podcast to start with, at least. Sepideh Moafi from Blackbird. She was the FBI special agent in that, which I
would
found
not have
interesting.
gotten that, yeah.
Brian Smith, who you would have seen most recently in Essex County. He played the uncle, I think, Ken. He was also in Sense8 and in Quantico. Brian Tyree Hill, obviously, Atlanta. Brooke Smith from Them. She played Drew.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, who you're saying that Lennox was the guy from Essex County?
Yes.
I would not have been able to put that together.
He looks different?
He looks different enough, I would say.
How
yeah.
about this guy named Gabriel? Did you recognize him? 'Cause
Gabriel? He's, I think, the person that runs the FBI.
he was in Ratchet. In 2009, he ran the FBI, yeah, I think. But he was in Ratchet. You would have seen him as a doctor in that. But you also would have seen him, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Sons of Anarchy, Asian Elvis.
Asian Elvis? The first episode. The pilot episode. You
Really?
say that? Yeah, he's in it for like 5 seconds, I think.
Okay,
And
all
then
right.
he gets knocked out, if I remember correctly.
So he's not a central character in Sons of Anarchy.
No, he's in it for like a minute in the pilot episode, I think.
And then lastly, Murphy from, or Jake McDormand. Did you recognize him? Mrs. Davis, all the other stuff, Greek?
Okay, yeah, Mrs. Davis. Yeah,
Of
I
course.
was wondering because I was like, he's so familiar, and Jake McDormand, they even say in the intro. In
Yeah,
fact, the
Limitless,
intro,
everything.
The
Yeah.
intro was like, I felt like a cross between Counterpart and Inception. I really like the way that the intro
So the
looked.
intro gets a plus.
The intro gets a plus, but the overall show, it's so confusing. I should mention, I went into this thinking that it was going to be, when I heard the title, like an after party, community, search party, American Pie reunion type TV show, especially when I heard the people that were going to be starring
So you
in
didn't
it.
realize it was more of a procedural, but like mixing timeline procedural.
When I saw the trailer for it, I thought it was going to be more like Southland, We Own This City, The Shield, Chicago PD type of TV show.
That's
So
fair.
you can imagine my shock when, again, the first thing we see is the 2034 storyline. But I want to focus on the 2009 storyline first. I think that would be easier just to go chronologically. So as I stated, it's really just a lot of challenges and seeing who is going to be able to make it to the next step of getting into the FBI.
Yeah, so they're all at Quantico already, right?
Yes.
And then they do a little bit of like a backflash as to how they got there to begin with, and then they are all training. Are they all FBI agents, or are some of them analysts as well? Or did they even get into that?
I don't think they even got into that.
Okay,
because
and it's
the first
physical and also mental training, or
I would say, yeah, physical and mental, because the first episode, we see how high the stakes really are for people to get into the FBI. For example, as they're, like, reciting something, I think in their first meeting, there's a bird that flies into a window, and this guy named Nathan, who is really trying to be part of the FBI, he asks if he can bury the bird. And then for some reason, the teacher is like, yeah, sure, that's fine, and they bring bring everyone out into this field where Nathan like buries this thing,
Yeah.
and then Gabriel starts going around asking everybody what he thinks of this decision, and then at the very end of that scene, Teo goes up to
Did anybody
Poet.
say it was a waste of time?
No, everyone was trying to be really nice, but Teo goes up to Poet and it's like, yeah, I was saying a lot of nice things because it's obvious that Nathan is going to be kicked out of here like right away.
Because he's got too much
of a conscience
like,
or something.
Yeah, it's like in Kingsman where they asked them to kill the dog.
Yeah. I mean, I would say so, but it was strange to me because I felt like the show was trying to make it kind of obvious as to why Nathan was kicked out. Maybe because I don't know, like he wasn't going to be able to deal with the psychological aspects of what you have to do
be too hard.
in the FBI or something like that. Yeah, but he gets kicked out by the end of the first episode. We also learn a little bit more about Ashley. Her mom died because of a nervous breakdown. Her dad ended up leaving, and then I think that she even goes on a date kind of with Lennox by the end of the first episode. The second episode is what I really wanted to touch on, though, because that's the fitness test that you were talking about.
Yes.
Teo, he's having a really hard time because for men, I think they're going to do a 5-mile run, and he has to complete that in 12 minutes and 24 seconds.
I think I read that in the FBI, you do have to complete miles in like 10 to 11 minutes.
Well, it's different for girls and boys because like for men, it's 12 minutes and 24 seconds, and then for women, they say I think 14 minutes.
Okay.
And it's funny because I found this strange. I wasn't sure how accurate this actually was. Everyone, it seemed like, was able to complete the 5 miles except for Teo.
Oh no.
So he was like the only one that was kind of dragged behind, and he's also even having to deal with somewhat racism because there's this guy named Simmons who was able to almost break this record held by this African American person for like a 30-yard speed run or something like that. Yeah. And then he's like, well, at least I'm the first white person to do it.
Huh.
Yeah, and this like leads to some tension between Teo and Simmons. Simmons tries to make up for it later on in the episode, and Teo doesn't really agree. But we also learn about how, like, I think when Teo was 15, he was going to the movies and how these cops like beat on him. So I mean, like the second episode, I felt
a lot of like tropey, stereotypical kind of stuff that they're throwing in there. Not that it's not worth talking about, but that it just felt a little familiar.
Yeah, it felt a little familiar. I wasn't a huge part of that, but I did like seeing Teo try and complete this like challenge.
And he ends up doing so. Like it's the last seeing him just like heaving it out for the last 30 yards.
He wasn't able to. He cut down his thing like a minute to 13 minutes.
Nice.
But then apparently because he's been studying the book, he talks to Gabriel and is like, I was doing some studying at Quantico and I learned apparently if I can retake the test in 7 weeks, I'm able to do so. I guess either because he got good enough time or that's just something that Quantico allows. And they say that, yeah, he's going to be able to. So that was the 2009
storyline, which you like the most.
Yeah, because it was the most balanced. I actually understood what was happening in there. Because when
your favorite character was Paperboy?
I would say Teo, yeah. Or Poet. In fact, that's also a pro for the show. None of the characters I felt like were actually annoying at all. I never was like, oh, why are they focusing so much on this character?
And I would assume there's no straight villain. Like it's everybody's got to complicate because they're all trying to do the right thing. It's just how they're accomplishing it in the future. Like whether or not they're sacrificing their morals or not.
No straight villain in the 2009 storyline.
What happens later on?
When we get to 2023, and we're really focusing on Teo's character, he meets Mark, who apparently is played by Lucifer, Supernatural.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. Mark Pellegrino. He also goes by Mark in this show, which is funny. The same first name there.
He insisted on that.
But yeah, it was funny to see him. He always just plays evil characters, no matter what I've seen him in. I think Lost as well.
I don't think he played an evil person in 13 Reasons Why.
No, he played a dad of a character.
Yeah, he was like a policeman.
Yeah. Here he's like this outlaw person of interest that Teo and his police officer that he's working with, Nunez, have to investigate.
Interesting.
And I wasn't really sure what the storyline was about, mostly because it seemed like Mark is supposed to be this main storyline, like main villain throughout the rest of the season.
Okay.
Some reason down in his basement, he has pictures of Teo, and he also has pictures of his wife. He apparently already knew who Teo was.
Okay.
The thing that made this episode good, though, my favorite part, probably out of all 2 episodes, is a shootout that took place. Because right as Nunez and Teo are leaving, that's when Mark's wife kind of runs out after them and is trying to give them information. Mark's wife gets shot in the chest right away. Nunez gets severely injured. And then it's just a full-on, like, shootout between Teo and Mark's men, and it was really nicely done. It reminded me of the like kind of action
was
scenes.
well done.
Yeah, the action scenes in The Night Agent.
Yeah.
And also there's this really cool and really well like colorful scene where he goes back inside the house because he's heard apparently about this basement and what it has in it, and he wants to get a look at it, and the house is now on fire. It seems like everyone has evacuated, but like the fire looked really cool on the ceilings and things like that.
I don't know if they used real fire or not.
Yeah, well,
CGI.
it was a nice contrast from the snowy kind of outside that you were seeing anyways.
Gotcha.
And Teo is kind of seeing the information. He goes into the basement, he sees what everyone else is seeing, and then he leaves.
How does that factor into later, or also do we get to see all the other Quantico agents later on in the 2023
Yeah,
storyline?
I mean, in the first episode, you see like a quick scene. Apparently, Poet, she has arrested this humongous corrupt cop, and
Cool.
that was all planned by Lennox, who apparently wants her to get information on Hour. If you remember, Hour was her roommate back in 2009. It seems like that storyline has some type of potential going on because a Poet is really against the idea. She's like, no, Hour is completely fine, but Lennox is like so certain
that
that
could be a
there's some
double
type
agent
of
or something?
information. Yeah, there's some type of information there. In fact, he even says it could fundamentally change
Fundamentally.
It could fundamentally change the way the FBI operates.
Got
So that again.
Wait, so that's the AI then? Yeah, that's the information, right? Because
You know what, now- yeah.
2034, it would just be the AI, which is changing the FBI.
Well, yeah, because that's 2023. So then we go to 2034, and you're absolutely. I didn't even recognize that
connection.
until you just said that. Yeah.
The coolest thing about the 2034 thing is the brain-computer interfaces, like the BCIs. I've always heard about that, but like not only are they getting the contacts, but the contacts are able to like tell them certain things. Like you have to have some sort of digital to neural component there, which is giving them that information. I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, the only time that we really see the eyes work, and you can kind of hear the little digits that they do whenever they're being used.
like the
in
beeping in
2034.
24?
Yeah. Well, apparently, a mass. That's a person that again at the very beginning of the episode, Teo kind of made Ashley investigate their house with. He and Teo's main reason was he's just a bad guy. He's just someone who's dangerous. A mass was like, you're a puppet for this agency. You don't really know exactly what's going on. And then by the end of the first episode, he gets shot, but he like gives a key card or some type of computer device to Ashley.
Sounds like a lot going on.
That's what
yeah.
I mean when I'm saying that this show seems
hard to
so
handle, hard to take.
convoluted.
Yeah.
Because it's like you have, okay, I can understand the FBI storyline in 2009. People are training to get into the FBI. Most simplest, most easy to understand. I enjoy it. 2023 storyline, that's when you're starting to complicate a little bit with Teo doing his thing with Mark.
Well, you're seeing them all, 13 years later, 14 years
Yeah.
later, working in the job and where they've all ended up. Do
And
you find out where
actually-
Murphy is or any of the, because Drew and Gabriel must have retired at some point.
Yeah, I think that you only see Drew and Gabriel in the 2009 storyline.
Yeah.
But then in the 2034 storyline, that's when you have, apparently the FBI and everything that they're standing for is not good. And
Let's
Ashley
take a
needs to
second
stay
there
out
and take a break for a second, and let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Where do you think the future's heading? So between smart contacts or smart glasses, which would you prefer?
Smart contacts or smart glasses? Probably smart glasses.
Same here. I don't see why people are so fascinated with the idea of sticking something in your eyeball that would be like that much in like. I think that it would be easier and more feasible for us by 2034 to have smart glasses. How about personal AI robot companions or smart glasses? Would you rather just have a little like guy behind you following you around telling you answers and stuff?
Again, I'd probably go with smart glasses. I've seen too many like movies where they have
turn
futuristic technology, and yeah, that's exactly what happens.
How
it feels
about
like that's coming
how about
out
this?
every week? Yeah.
Self-driving cars, which we sort of already have, but
kinda
like
have that, yeah.
perfected self-driving cars versus flying cars.
Probably self-driving cars if they were 100% like done and like there was no crashes or
And the
anything
last
like
question,
that.
which I know applies back to the show, is human-driven cars or autonomous vehicles? So still self-driving cars, but where you aren't even allowed to drive the car anymore if you're human. Like the law has changed.
I would probably go with. I mean, if it's autonomous, then and you're saying there's gonna be no crashes.
Everybody on Earth would be, just on public roads at least, controlled by a self-driving vehicle.
I mean, I feel like that's where we're heading, anyways.
So you think that people are going to willingly give up their license to drive?
I mean, I think that's going to take a while before we get there, but yes.
I think you'll need a generation to die off. Like, I'm not sure if it's going to be Generation X or Millennial, but like, there has to be a point where,
I think it's going to be decades later. It might even take something close to a century for that to even happen. in.
I don't know.
But,
I don't know if it's going to be that long, but I do think that it'll be easy for me because I don't like it when I see crazy drivers on the road. So back to the show 2034. This has been compared to Minority Report a lot because by now it's sort of a police state. It seems AI has taken over the FBI, and it was one of their, you were saying, Poet or Ours or someone's technology that has really been implemented.
It was Teo, yeah.
Well, no, Teo is the one who's leading the charge. Like, he's the one in charge of Quantico at this point.
Yeah.
But he's not the one who developed the technology. That was one of the cast.
But like I said, he's the one that kind of implemented it into this system.
And he is now a villain or not?
I would say, they're setting him up to be.
Why or how?
There's obviously something that Amass knew, and it's whatever he gave Ashley is going to be a big part of this series. That key card, whatever is on it, is probably going to be some type of incriminating information. So I assume that there's something that Teo did where where that key card has a direct connection to him, and that's why I think he's kind of being set up. I mean, he's in a Judiciary Committee meeting in the first episode. Kind of, they're trying to see if he should re-up being the leader of the
Sounds
FBI.
more political than I'd want it to be. I'd want the futuristic storyline to be, like, intense and a lot of, like, action and stuff happening.
Well, that was more...
like the Peripheral or something.
The funny thing is, that was more the 2023 storyline than the future storyline or the 2009 storyline.
It'd be expensive to do all the CGI.
And I mean, like, the show, it's competently made, the acting is good, and there's even some good dialogue exchange between the characters, but it's just all overshadowed by these confusing and interchanging storylines.
So overall, what would you give it?
I would give it a 5 out of 10. It doesn't pass. I feel like this needed a couple different rewrites if it was going to make sense, because this is honestly a show I feel like you have to make notes to even understand where all the storylines are and what's going on.
Complicated.
And as stated before, it just throws you into this thing without even giving you any type of, like, restraint at all. It's just like, you have to understand, now we're in 2023, now suddenly Poet is arresting a corrupt cop, and she's now having to also interrogate Hour, and then the 2009 storyline with all the, like, fitness that they have to do. It's all craziness.
Okay, well, it was created by Tom Rob Smith, who has done a lot of foreign government intelligence and security services stories, because he started off with his first book, Child 44, which came out, I think, over 10 years ago, about a Russian ministry for state security, like back in the 1940s or something, like the Secret Service for Russia. He wrote about that, and then that was made into a movie. Tom Hardy and Gary Oldman starred in it. And then he made a book that was about the London Spy Secret Intelligence Service, MI6. And then later on, he did the American Crime Story of Gianni Versace. I think that was his first television controlling stake.
I
but
heard
then
about that,
So he's done like a bunch of different internet. See, he just seems interested. He's British originally, and then he was inspired by the FBI podcast that a retired caseworker had worked on, Jerry Williams, where she interviews other retired FBI agents and they go through their stories, which I do think is interesting. But then he was like, what can we do with this? And then it was
and then just decided to go crazy with it.
An 8-episode order that came in that was originally greenlit in June of 2021. And at that time, AI wasn't as big as it is right now. So at least they were like Prussian, or I don't know.
This would have been incredibly hard to do, because I know that TV is kind of different, but had they done maybe like a 2009 storyline for like a season, then the 2023 storyline.
Oh yeah, that would have been hard to do.
Or a different one. I mean, like Waco has been doing it with kind of sequel series.
Well, it's a limited series,
like
so they only got 8 episodes to explain the entire thing. And I think that the way that they did American Crime Story, Gianni Versace, was that they did a bunch of different timelines as well, and they thought, well, this worked, and so that's
But it was just so jam-packed with information. That's my biggest problem with the TV show.
Sure. And then also there was a show that came out a month ago that didn't help, called Class of 07. So a lot of people got that confused.
So I was very confused by that, because
it was an Australian TV show.
I did come across like a comedy Class of 07 before I saw this, and I was like, did they just get the title wrong? Like, am I about to go into the after party type of TV show I thought about? And then no.
It's like The Diplomat. Like The Diplomat had 2 different diplomats within a month of each other. So as far as the reviews, those are concerned, 6.3 on IMDb, 56% on Rotten Tomatoes. Variety said it was weighed down by big ideas. Boston Globe said a bit underdeveloped and shallow. Rolling Stone said feels more like a network show than a FX or Hulu. Guardian gave it 3 stars. AV Club, I think, gave it the worst review, saying jarringly little going on with most of its characters, but Collider loved it. They really liked the 2 performances of Teo and Poet, or Brian Tyree Henry and Kate Mara. And then who you would say Teo was your favorite character, right?
Yeah, Teo, I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, all right. And Roger Ebert called it intriguing. Overall,
Jarring, I do agree with. But I also agree where it's like, again, the acting is fine, but I don't feel like the acting is the reason you watch a TV show unless it's like going to be some Emmy-nominated type thing. You really watch it for the story, and it was just so complicated here.
Do you think they're going to have a smart toilet by 2034? Like the one in what was it? Better Call Saul?
Oh, God.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.